when I would be on dates with black guys, right? I would be on a date with black guys, but they would always say to me things like, oh, I bet you date white guys, I bet you date white guys. And they would always make this comment, and it was such a strange,
Come on, man, I can't have shit in this house.
It's the middle part with the braids.
I'm gonna get dragged for that one. Look, my name's Queer Daniela, and you should follow me. I think you should follow me because I do film and social commentary, and I think you really like it, honestly. I make video essays, I talk a bit, I share my opinion, I spread inclusivity, diversity, and decolonization. So stick around for the journey. You know, I'm just getting started out. I just got TikTok as well, and Instagram. Instagram's very scary. TikTok is even scarier. I don't even know why I said Instagram is scary when I literally just got bombarded on TikTok this morning. I posted something at midnight last night, and some of the comments, it was just a lot. It was, the engagement on TikTok is in, anyway, the friendly fire that some of us black girls have been under recently since this white boy test has gone viral on TikTok. Please just look at this.
Be fucking serious, because a lot of you bitches are unserious. Do I look like a black girl who only gets white boys?
Being as serious as I could be with you, baby. From the jean button up, rolled up, to the new growth braids tucked behind the ear. And I know you got Lululemon leggings on. You do, baby. You do.
I'm going to answer this question fully respectful because you asked. Yes, but let me tell you why. It's the middle part with the braids. Like me personally, box braids gives side part forever. No hate at all. In combination with this particular style of glasses, in combination with the septum, in combination with the jean jacket pushed up, or jean shirt, button up jean shirt pushed, it's the tuck of said middle part box braids behind the ear.
So luckily that TikTok was based on an open question. So everyone a few people had fun responding to it. Some people could relate, and it just seemed to be a banterful, kind of comical back and forth about this white boy test, or whether or not you look like the type of black girl who dates white guys. But people haven't always been so warm about this topic. And you might remember the content creator Lipgloss, who was absolutely dragged all over the internet for simply making a post.
Let me tell you right now, I can only pull white boys with this hair, but I'm not mad.
This hasn't only come up on social media. Actress Jodie Turner-Smith was suggesting that white people were the first people that made her feel as beautiful as she was as a dark-skinned woman. She felt that it was only through her experiences from white people that she ever acknowledged, or I guess valued, her beauty. So a lot of people were not happy about this comment because they felt like it was sort of like a form of racial betrayal by almost portraying white people in her life as the white saviors of her narrative. And as you can imagine, people didn't appreciate that very much. So it's clear that this is often a topic of contention, particularly interracial relationships, in particular how dark-skinned black women feel. So it does make you question how this is a constant trend with women who look like this, and how this topic keeps coming back up. What is it that makes women fail or even pass? If we were to say the white boy test would be, do you seem like the type of girl that only gets white guys, then you would pass the test essentially if the answer is yes. So what is it that allows girls to pass this white boy test? Most of the descriptions have been pretty ridiculous, to be completely honest. There were comments about regrowth braids, wearing your hair in a middle part. There was rolling up your sleeves, tucking your hair behind your ears. A lot of it was just very trivial, unserious topics, and that was all part of the criteria. And I think that's because of how light-hearted a lot of the parts of the criteria were, I think that's why this resurgence of the conversation was a lot more trivial. But it didn't start that way. So I wanted actually to break this down and really look at what at the core this online trend and this test and this discourse actually says about how the black community receives said women, and what does it actually mean to be a black girl who only gets white guys. So let's unpack this. Well, for starters, it's easy to identify that most of these women have a few things in common. If they don't wear their natural 4C hair out, they often have natural protective hairstyles, essentially. So by suggesting that such women only get white guys, guess who we're saying they can't pull? You guessed it, black men. So I'd like to invite to the platform an old guest of mine who's been on this channel, particularly in the comment section of my diversity in film video. You might know who I'm referring to. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Colorism. Well, thank you, Akria. I'm not colorism itself. I know you wouldn't invite anything as brainless and ignorant as colorism to this channel. I'm just the definition and I guess analytical reflection of colorism based on black sociology. So colorism is embedded into our society through media, film narratives, beauty campaigns, and in and surrounding the music that we listen to, particularly in our music videos, and just in the everyday lives of black women. Due to this essential brainwashing, the black community have been socialized and conditioned to see dark-skinned women as inferior, of lower class, of lower social status, and essentially of lower value. Well, have you heard of the phrase, if it ain't snowing, I ain't going? Well, for many black men, daily interactions of society constantly reminds them are always going to be walking on eggshells to avoid society's negative stereotypes about them. And due to this, some men have the coping mechanism of an unconscious bias, which they develop as a form of social leverage, let's say, to help them out from being put in such categories. And one of the schemas that many black men have developed is that having an attractive woman on their side is a display of successful masculinity, and based on all of the conditioning and socializing, this attractive woman looks like often a fair-skinned, Eurocentric featured, exotic woman who is in very close proximity to the view and the beauty standard of whiteness. And in other words, not these girls. Therefore, the reality is, based on this conditioning and socialization, the average black girl isn't the item of desire and the symbol of the status symbol when it comes to successful masculinity. And for this reason, if they do date dark-skinned women, often these dark-skinned women will have very Eurocentric features or a very hyper-feminine or hypersexual figure or frame, close proximity to exoticness or a mixed race identity, like having a loose curl or silky straight hair, or just be very full glamour, and they would have to constantly radiate glamour and be effortlessly groomed 24/7 in order to meet the basic standard of a trophy wife. So essentially, much like many of these men's white supremacist views, they expect many dark-skinned women to always be in their Sunday best for them, while mediocre, conventionally average, mixed or light-skinned women remain their main object of desire. And this is the reason why low-maintenance, dark-skinned black women, for many black men, of course not all, is often the last choice. Well, that definitely would explain why a lot of dark-skinned women feel that they are not often the first point of attraction for a lot of black men. But why white boys in particular? Hi, sorry to interrupt. So sorry to interrupt. So who am I? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm acting white. I just thought I should grab the mic for a second because I heard white boys and I was like, my time to shine. Okay. I wanted to actually elaborate on the topic that you just mentioned. I would attribute that to 3 keywords in particular. Fetishization, sexualization, and exoticization. So to just touch on that a bit more, media platforms like pornography and music videos, as well as our colonial history, has constantly subjected black women's bodies to being freaks of nature. Our bodies have been monumented throughout history due to a fascination of their distinguishable features. The practice of making black women's bodies a spectacle has lasted as far as Atlantic slavery to the origins of American gynecology, all the way until modern day, where the mainstream media continues to simultaneously police and obsess over black women's bodies. I would argue that this historical fascination with white men and black women's bodies has left a trail of fetishization, particularly of many young white boys growing up who often have sexual desires of this exotic woman that so far deviates from their norms of white beauty standards. So I would theorize that black women by comparison are the furthest deviation from whiteness, and thus the extreme of exoticization from these young white boys. That paired with the ebony porn industry that paints black women as these sexual freaks that are hungry and aggressively thirsty for sex, particularly for white, makes for the perfect combination of having either an obsession with having a black girlfriend or at least trying to get the chance of having a sexual encounter with one. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. But I just want to understand, what does that have to do with you acting white? Well, the problem is, a lot like black men, black women have lots of negative stereotypes that are placed upon them from Western society, including ones like we are aggressive, we're angry, intimidating, loud, all of these traits, particularly for monoracial dark-skinned women. So while the white boys might fetishize a lot of dark-skinned black women and sexualize them due to their inherent bias of black women based on Western society's stereotypes, they may also be simultaneously intimidated by us, as many of these negative stereotypes are not deemed as very feminine or pleasant to be around. Thus, black women who show signs of being more subdued and socially acceptable, for example being soft-spoken, would be more of a desirable partner for such men. An example of these types of women often are very low maintenance. They wear their hair in natural hairstyles, for example. They reject all forms of glamour, wear little to no makeup or very neutral makeup. And if they do wear makeup, it's very warm and almost inviting or cutesy, counterbalancing the alleged aggressiveness and anger that is innately within dark-skinned black women. It almost cancels out those other more intimidating qualities and makes these women more bearable and more ideal partners for such white men. Oh, thanks for that. Who knew acting white could explain so much of this? I completely understand why this is something that is important to members of the diaspora to discuss while navigating the world and navigating being a part of our community. So it genuinely bothers me actually that there have been times where women are sharing their truth and sharing their experiences and have been absolutely just attacked online and just completely ridiculed and received so much controversy and hate targeted at them just for telling their truth. So that leads to the next part of this video. When TikTok creator at the time lipglossss released this video, she had Twitter in a chokehold.
Let me tell you right now, I can only pull white boys with this hair, but I'm not mad.
Many women who agreed that texturism and combined with featureism and colorism, all three of those things combined, is what sets up our beauty standards and leaves dark-skinned women, particularly like her with type 4 hair, in the absolute dust. But one thing that I don't think is talked about enough is the topic of misogynoir in this, and how there is so much internalized misogyny and how a lot of women responded to lip gloss. Many of the tweets and responses to how lip gloss presented herself in the TikTok video were very much criticizing how she dressed or her personal hygiene, which, bear in mind, these women don't know her personally, but they were criticizing her personal hygiene, the way that she groomed herself and her natural features and the way she wore her hair, and all of these different things that very much went on to berate her physical appearance and suggest that it is actually her unkemptness that is the reason that many black men aren't interested in her. But I think one thing and one sort of nuance, I guess, that people missed out from this conversation is the fact that while a lot of these women might acknowledge that colorism is a thing, I don't think they realize what that looks like in real life. Because when we think about, for example, the halo effect and how that affects people with pretty privilege, the halo effect literally means that psychologists have shown that we attribute positive qualities to people that we see as desirable or physically attractive. So if these dark-skinned women aren't seen as desirable or physically attractive in society and based on how we're conditioned and socialized as a whole, we understand the world very often based on what we see. And for a lot of colorist men, not only do they not see these women as attractive or desirable, while that is one thing, and I guess many of us can just move on and find men who aren't colorist, the issue is it's not that simple. Their value as human beings, as women, based on issues with misogyny combined means that these men see them as worthless human beings. It's not just that they are unattractive, they literally lose value. And by women saying things like this, like, you know, suggesting that it's her unkemptness and that's why black men don't want her, it again suggests this, that black women have to be ultra glamorous and, you know, super high maintenance and extremely groomed and in their Sunday best, 10 out of 10 every day to deserve basic treatment, basic respect, or even just attention at all from black men. While it's okay for the same men to fuss over the most mediocre, ungroomed, light-skinned women, the standards are just different. And honestly, it's really sad that we put lip gloss through what she did, because some of her TikToks were, she made some really, really interesting points on the topic of colorism and really how it looks like in our day-to-day. I know often in video essays we kind of talk about it objectively and from a critical perspective, and we analyze it. We do social analysis of colorism very often, but she would just talk about how it looks on a day-to-day basis and just real life experience that many dark-skinned women, especially ones that aren't like full glamour or high maintenance, can definitely relate to. And a lot of us really did appreciate her for the content that she made. Sadly, I wasn't on TikTok at the time, but I would, every now and then I would catch a glimpse of the discussions that were going on, and honestly I was just so grateful that they were even happening. I was just so glad that people were finally having those conversations. I would definitely say for myself, I have experienced very often being told that I look like I date white guys, or when I would be on dates with black guys, right? I would be on a date with black guys, but they would always say to me things like, oh, I bet you date white guys, I bet you date white guys. And they would always make this comment, and it was such a strange,
Come on, man, I can't have shit in this house!
It's the middle part with the braids.
Listen, it's because I was in character before, that's why, okay? I'm gonna get dragged for that one. Look, guys, just get over it. Just whatever. I might do it a few times, whatever, okay? Since I went in character, I can't stop. Leave me alone. Oh my gosh. I can't do nothing. I can't even touch my hair in peace. Anyway, this is the point that I'm trying to make, okay? It's like, as much as it's like a funny and a lighthearted conversation, a lot of it is kind of rooted in this idea that there's a way that you have to act when you're black, and there's like certain things that you can and can't do as a black person. It's just annoying when your hair is just going in front of your ear like that. It's just like a weird feeling, like you just want to push it back. I've seen you guys do it with your wigs. Don't even try it. Just because I have braids, that's why you guys end the video. If that's the only reason why I know people come for me, leave me alone. Anyway, no. Seriously though, I only dated black guys. I was only particularly interested in having a black partner. And I noticed that whenever I would date these guys, they would often make comments, like these passing comments of like, oh, you know, I bet you date a lot of white guys. Or if I would say something like my ex, they would be like, he was white, right? And I'm like, no, actually, he was black. He was Nigerian. He was as black as it gets. No. Anyway, I feel like it has taken me definitely a really long time to kind of get in my self-love journey, self-love bag. I'm definitely there right now. I'm like obsessed with my complexion, obsessed with my hair texture. I love having 4C hair. I get so excited when I know I'm going to take my braids out and see my hair, but it hasn't always been like that because I wear a lot of natural hairstyles. I think it's what suits me best. I think it's what suits my facial features best. I noticed that I feel like I glow more when I wear natural hairstyles like braids or like kinky straight hair or yaki textured hair, like kinky textured hair, curly hair, coily hair. All of that, I think that suits me best. So even when I would wear straight hair, I would often wear hair that was like a kinkier texture, was like a yaki straight, right? And as you might know, if you wear yaki straight hair, you get one or two responses to that. People either think it's your real hair, great, or people don't understand the concept of wearing straight hair, like extensions that are still kinky. So they make lots of assumptions about it. And I remember I was on a date with this guy, and he was like, we were talking about, I think he was talking about like how everyone's wearing wigs nowadays, because obviously I was wearing braids, and sometimes guys like bring that up as a conversation because for whatever reason they're trying to, sometimes guys try to trap you into the pick me card where they try and be like, you're not like the other girls type of thing. And I think he was essentially doing that. And he was just like, yeah, like, you know, obviously a lot of girls wear wigs and stuff like that. Yeah, man, you're mad natural. And then he was like, so when you wear like this type of hair, then he was like, so when are you gonna do your hair? And I was like, sorry. And he was like, so when are you gonna, like, you're obviously always like really natural, like when are you thinking of doing your hair? And I was like, well, first of all, I had this ponytail. I'll put a picture in. I had this ponytail, and it had like a yucky straight, textured like human hair to it, weave, right? And I was just explaining to him, because around that time I was like in the foundations of really learning to love my hair and let it grow and like nurture it, invest in it, all the things. So I was saying to him, I was like, you know, I just tend to go for like more natural textures because I think it suits my facial features more. Obviously the hair was straight, okay? I wasn't saying I don't ever wear straight hair. I guess that wasn't the point. I maybe not bone straight hair, but I wear straight hair. It was more about hair that's more textured. That was the main thing, right? So I said that to him, and then he was like, oh yeah, it's cheaper, innit? Guys, and the irony of him saying it's cheaper is that literally anyone who wears a lot of textured, yaki, straight, yaki blowout, all of those hairstyles is processed, and they have to actually do a lot to get the hair to be that texture. So it's significantly more expensive sometimes to wear hair that's actually textured, that matches your natural, you know, type 4 hair, because this is not hair that's easily available. You know, bone straight hair is actually very easily available when it comes to human hair, but finding hair that suits and blends in with type 4 hair is a lot more rare and difficult to find like high quality hair, so it tends to be actually more costly. So him saying that, the irony of him approximating kinky hair textures and like type 4 with cheapness and a lack of value spoke volumes. It spoke volumes. And I'm so glad now that I can have conversations and extract that from the conversation and understand I can just leave. I didn't have a full understanding of my worth as an individual, and I would allow myself to make excuses for things that people would say like that about for parts of my identity, parts of who I am as a person physically, and I would allow them to make statements like that because I just almost felt like, oh, okay, well, maybe my hair looked cheap and that's why, or maybe I should have, I don't know, maybe I should have, you know, changed down a different hairstyle, and then he would have known. No, okay, nothing would change the fact that unless I had a bone straight wig on my head, he was going to think that I was wearing whatever natural hairstyle I was wearing because it was cheaper and it was of lower value, and I couldn't afford to be a glamorous black woman as every black woman should want to be. That's all it was. And I honestly wish that was my only experience. Luckily that was just with this guy that I was just on a date with, and I was just dating, but I also experienced it with a boyfriend that I had. So toxic. Where I remember we were at a restaurant and a lot of the servers were Somali, and they were really nice to us, and we were like, oh, they're so cute, and we're like, there's so many Somali girls here, I love it. And then he was like, yeah, like Somalis are so lucky, man, they have the good hair, man. And I was like, I'm sorry, what does that mean? And he was like, yeah, like their hair's mad silky and like straight and soft, like they just have good hair. And I'm sitting there with my type 4 hair, just sitting there like with my kinky blowout ponytail, thinking, what? Because the thing that's so scary about hearing a comment like that as well, especially from the guy at the time, he was like my partner. I saw him as like my life partner, and he had even like gone as far as saying that like he wanted to like invest in the future with me and actually have kids and stuff. And in that moment I actually just panicked, because I just thought, if our kids have our genes, right, based on me and his genes, our kids are going to be dark skinned with 4C hair. What message is he going to be perpetuating to these kids when they're around and when they're growing up that is essentially going to reinforce why they're not going to love their own hair type? That is just so concerning to me. And also the fact that I'm sitting right in front of you, but you've just raised a form of superiority in blackness that is very like the opposite of who I am. It just was just so problematic, and honestly I'm really glad I left. I'm so glad I left, honestly. But I will say though, the fact that I have all these, well, a few experiences with black men, even to the point where they're saying these things to me, but the fact that I'm even going on dates with them in the first place and getting attention from them, I do want to point out the fact that a lot of women that have been in my case where they do get attention from black men will be like, I've never had these issues with colorism, I get lots of attention from black men. Very often you'll notice these women have a very specific physical aesthetic as well, so that's very worth mentioning. But yeah, so it's very easy if you do get attention for being a dark-skinned woman, out of the sake of putting some respect on our name, just saying, no, we are wanted, people do desire us, people do want us, because it sounds almost like accepting that dark-skinned women aren't always seen as desirable. It sounds like you're almost like downplaying our worth, downplaying what we're capable of. But I think it should be, I feel like those things shouldn't be mutually exclusive. I feel like we should be able to critique the fact that in many cases, a lot of dark-skinned women, they do have harsher standards. They do have higher expectations when it comes to dating black men. They do. And that's just a fact. That is just the truth. That is just a lot of people's lived experiences. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we aren't beautiful. It doesn't mean that we aren't desirable. It doesn't mean we can't walk with our chest high. It doesn't mean that there are many men of all races who see us and are just in awe of our beauty. Those two things can be simultaneously true, you know? And I just also think it's really important to point out, like I mentioned with the kind of people who discredit a lot of people's experiences on colorism, I feel like it's so important to mention as well why it is that you may have had the experiences that you may have had. And in my case, while I can talk about these experiences that I've had with like black exes and how I mainly dated black guys around this time, I was a slim, thick, 5'7", I had no waist, and I had thicker thighs. Okay, proportionately, I had a very, I guess, Instagrammable or like conventionally attractive body shape, and I'm very aware of that, right? So it is a lot easier to get attention when you fit this hyper feminine image that's been sexualized in the media, and that is generally very much like trending in our current zeitgeist. This is an image, like a body type that a lot of people want to have. So I'm very aware that if I didn't have this body type and I didn't hit puberty and all of these genetics didn't kick in, I know my experiences would be very different, and I'm very, very aware of that. Especially as I know that how I dressed definitely was a huge influence on the black men in particular that paid me attention. When I would kind of dress in more of an alternative way and kind of express myself and wear the clothes that were very STEM-like in the way that I wanted to be seen at the time, I wouldn't get many attention from a lot of these black men. But it was only when I would accentuate my figure and wear things that really emphasized this like slim, thick figure that I would get attention from them. And I definitely noticed that, and it's a shame because I felt like at the time, because I didn't get that much attention from black men, I almost valued it. And even though I knew that that was the only thing that was like keeping them around, I felt like at least I'm getting the validation from them that I hadn't got like for so long in my ugly duckling era of growing up as a skinny, lanky, dark-skinned black girl. So it almost felt like a form of validation and affirmation for me as a person to kind of be like, look, I can get a black boyfriend. And I think that's such a shame. I think that's such a shame that I and like so many women would subject ourselves to such low standards for men that do not even put us first. I would say though that there are so many black men that aren't this way and genuinely love on black women's curls and kinks and the naturals and all the things and the locks and the braids and they're out there. They really are. This is not a like all black men hate us video. They are out there. It's just worth discussing the fact that unfortunately those men are less readily available if they're not already taken, because we all inherently have these colorist and texturist views. So unless the guy is like these men actively decolonizing their thoughts, unfortunately you're going to get the colorist and texturist ones who think you're pretty for a dark skin, and that is a shame. So thank God those experiences were an older version of me. Okay, I've moved past those experiences, thank God. Although in the topic of this video, I noticed throughout my whole life I've very often been that like black girl who's been accused of being whitewashed because of the environments that I grew up in, the fact that I went to a private school. Before then, like, the school that I went to was like all white, like from when I was younger. And then also, like, the secondary school I went to was like a predominantly black school. But because I had gone to the primary school that I went to, when I went to that predominantly black school, they would call me, the black girls would call me the white girl, and they would like make jokes about me being like Lucy, and like they would call me like basically all these like coded names for being the white girl of the black school, right? Of the black group of girls. So that's something that I've experienced a lot. But still, I actually never dated white guys, despite all of these assumptions, until this year. This year was the first year I ever dated white guys. And I actually think that this is really... So, this is just a quick one. I was on a date with a white guy. And he was cute, you know, the conversation was flowing, everything was fine. And I felt like, you know what, one thing that was like almost like a relief was that I felt like going on a date with this guy, and this was my assumption, and this is a lesson learned, okay? I got bunny hopped. Going on the date with this guy, I felt like my assumption was that he doesn't care about race, because if he's dating this black woman, I would hope that race is not a big deal to him. So that was my assumption, right? So as we're on the date, things are going well. We're getting to know each other. He knows a lot about, because I tell him like I'm into social commentary and the kind of things I do, and he watches a lot of documentaries. So we're having this conversation about, you know, a lot of things to do with black politics and black businesses and the black economy and all these things, because he's interested in African diaspora. A lot of his friends are like, basically all of his friends are black. I should have seen all the red flags. All of his friends are black, and so he just like, you know, this is just his type of conversation. And then he just throws out, I can tell you the type of girl that dates white guys. He was white. He was white. And he said that to me. I can't even explain. I literally almost just ran out of the box. I almost took off my shoes and just ran out of Box Park barefoot through Shoreditch. Like, I was like, what? Why would you do me like that? Like, there's me thinking, okay, this guy is just seeing me for who I am. And then he said that in such a like race play type of way. Like, he wanted me to almost like play along with that. And it just felt like such an insult. It almost felt like he was calling me a coon. I was like, what? So one thing I've learned when it comes to the white boy test is that there is no one way that you can't show in how you act the racial preference of who you date, okay? It's very likely that socially might end up in particular circles and might find themselves dating particular types of people, but this label of putting a race to who you can and can't date, I just feel that it's just so limiting to us as dark-skinned women. I just wanted to point out how being a dark-skinned woman is not easy, okay? Especially when you have 4C hair and in this climate of social standards and just being judged and completely dogged on the internet. I just wanted to highlight that we should make people feel safe to be able to share their experiences. I don't think that we should constantly like make women feel guilty for sharing their experiences, even if it doesn't fit a narrative that wants to be filled. At the end of the day, black women are not punching down when they talk about things that they feel like they aren't getting from the community of black men around them. They're not punching down at the end of the day. They really aren't. And if anything, they are calling out and saying, this is how we feel, and we're asking you guys to try a little bit better, try to educate yourself, try to decolonize yourself. And it's just a discussion to be had. It's not a finger pointing thing at all black men like you're doing this wrong. It's actually us pointing at the systems in place that are causing us to be in this, causing this divisiveness in our community in the first place. And I hope that we can start to recognize that, so we can have these conversations in a healthy way without it becoming just mean and into just a vicious cycle of just bullying and degrading comments. So that's my thoughts on this topic, but thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Follow if you did watch to the end. I think you should subscribe to my channel. I mean you're here now, you know, you just might as well. I just feel like you might as well. So just subscribe to my channel for more film and social commentary. I'd really appreciate it, and honestly, I'd love to see you guys again. So my name's Queer Daniela, and you should follow me. I think you should follow me because I do film and social commentary, and I think you really like it, honestly. I make video essays, I talk a bit, I share my opinion, I spread inclusivity, diversity, and decolonization. So stick around for the journey. You know, I'm just getting started. started out. I just got TikTok as well, and Instagram. Instagram's very scary. TikTok is even scarier. I don't even know why I said Instagram is scary when I literally just got bombarded on TikTok this morning. Oh, I posted something at midnight last night, and some of the comments, it was just a lot. It was, the engagement on TikTok is in, anyway, just follow me there on TikTok at townoftawiah, and also on Instagram at townoftawiah. I hope you can come back. I'll speak to you guys soon.